Hello everyone, I am Demented Kirby, and welcome to my channel, the Commander Tavern. The Commander Tavern is a channel dedicated to my favorite Magic the Gathering format. The Brewery is a series on this channel showcasing my spicy brews and other deck techs. This episode of the Brewery was voted into existence by viewers. In anticipation for the Secret Lair International Women's Day 2020, I posted a poll on YouTube and the majority chose Saskia the Unyielding, so this episode is for you. If you like this deck or any of the cards I'll be mentioning throughout the video, please consider using my TCG Player affiliate link when purchasing those cards. You can find that link down in the description. It'll really help out the channel. Other ways you can help support the channel is with my Patreon. Patrons get early access to scheduled videos on YouTube, and higher tier patrons get access to the VIP section of my Discord server as well. You can find a link down to that in the description too. In fact, patrons got a chance to see this video earlier. Alright, let's get back to the episode. Saskia is a 3/4 human soldier with vigilance and haste for 1 black, 1 red, 1 green, and 1 white. As she enters the battlefield, you choose a player. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. This means that if you hit the chosen player, they essentially get twice the combat damage. This is a very straightforward and to the point combat-based ability. That doesn't mean that this deck will necessarily be creature heavy or too reliant on creatures, but most of the core strategies revolve around combat. What's great about Saskia is that we're able to hit that annoying control player or a player with a bunch of defensive effects, since we can bypass hitting them by hitting other players instead. Even so, we have to ensure our creatures break through to be able to smack our targets. Iroa's God of Victory, Nylea God of the Hunt, and Stonehoof Chieftain all aid in giving a global way for damage to get through. What's great about these cards is that they're indestructible. Iroa's gives Menace, while Nylea and the Centaur give Trample. Stonehoof Chieftain also gives our attackers indestructible. Iroa's provides something similar in preventing any damage to our attackers. Nylea can also be used to pump a solo attacker in order to give a finishing blow, so she's definitely a great mana sink as well. The gods can also be used solely as enchantments if they don't have enough devotion. This makes it harder to target them if they're just enchantments on the board. Speaking of enchantments on the board, Whip of Erebos, Bow of Nylea, and Dothian Brace are also great for combat hijinxes. Unfortunately, the Whip and Bow also being artifacts is a con more so than a pro, since mass artifact hate is more common than mass enchantment hate. That being said, giving our creatures lifelink makes it harder for opponents to take us out by combat damage. Having a lot of tapped creatures leaves us vulnerable to an opponent's following attacks, but a high life can buffer that problem. The bow gives our attackers death touch, so opponents might think twice about blocking since they're more than likely trading their things for ours. Dothian Brace bypasses all that entirely by being able to give any creature shadow for just 2 black. Not only does this make our own creatures nigh unblockable, but you can also use this on opponents' creatures to make them unblockable when attacking other players. But more on that aspect of the deck later. Ankle Shanker, Samut Voice of Dissent, and Audric Lunac Marshal are some of more creatures that make our other creatures more dangerous. Ankle Shanker potentially prevents our creatures surviving combat while also potentially killing off all blockers. Samut giving our creatures haste makes it harder for opponents to know how many creatures to keep up to block. She also has haste, double strike, and vigilance. She alone combined with Audric makes all of our creatures have the same keywords. Thanks to the gods in the deck, if they're creatures, then Audric grants indestructible to all of our other creatures. Same for all the other slew of keywords strewn across his text box. Not to be outdone, God Eternal Ronus makes it so our creatures are even bigger. Why get rid of a single opponent or 2 at a time when you can get rid of the entire table in a single combat phase? What's great about this Ronus is that if it were to die, you instead tuck it 3 cards deep into your library. Now Ronus might make creatures big in one instance, but Gavany Township can do so over time. It might seem slow, but it's a great mana sink regardless. It's also an ability stapled onto a mana producing land that doesn't enter the battlefield tapped. The game doesn't always start with huge creatures on the board, so being able to even pump our utility creatures can be useful, but we'll see those creatures later. Speaking of lands that don't take up space, the deck is also running Vault of the Archangel, Kessig Wolfrun, and Rogue's Passage. Vault of the Archangel gives creatures death touch and lifelink. Again, the lifelink is great to be able to swing in with total abandon, but having potential blockers with death touch makes opponents think twice about attacking you. Swinging in with death touch creatures also make them think twice about blocking, and if they do, you're going to take out plenty of blockers. Kessig Wolfrun is a great mana sink if you're able to swing in with Saskia for lethal commander damage. It giving Trample is a great way to bypass blockers. However, that distinction goes to Rogue's Passage, since it can just outright make any creature unblockable. Taking full advantage of pushing through with combat damage is obviously one of the main win cons of the deck. But we aren't playing Solitaire. We don't want to become the arch enemy, so instead we can also make our opponents partake in the mayhem and make them attack each other. Thantis the Warweaver, Warmonger Hellkite, and Marisi Breaker of the Coil force all creatures to attack. Marisi is more subtle than the other two since it goads all creatures instead, meaning that they have to attack, they just can't attack you, which is great. You have to guarantee being able to hit an opponent though, but we already saw all the ways to give our creatures all sorts of evasions or ways of pushing through just now. Thantis punishes opponents attacking us by making itself bigger when they do. However, if we have our other defenses up, like a big life total and blockers with death touch, they might not want to attack us and have to instead attack a weaker prospect instead, even if it is against their will. Thantis cares not for your feelings besides rage and frustration. Warmonger Health Kite magnifies that rage even worse by being able to pump all attackers. So even if you're not attacking, you can pump all attackers in order to passively take out an opponent. On the topic of pumping opponents' creatures to have them take each other out, the deck exceeds in that too. Fiendish Duo and Gisela Blade of Gold Knight double the damage dealt to our opponents regardless if it's you dealing it or not. The Devils are also a 5/5 with first strike, so that's nothing to scoff at. As a bonus, Gisela also makes it so damage dealt to opponents' permanents are doubled while also having the damage dealt to us and our permanents. Calculating Lich and Gahiji Honored One pump creatures attacking your opponents, so to speak. The Lich makes it so opponents lose life whenever attackers are declared against them, so anyone piloting a Horde deck can take out an opponent before even getting to the blocker step of combat. Since the Lich takes life away, it bypasses any damage preventing effects. Gahiji pumps creatures even if they attack planeswalkers, which is key since most control effects use planeswalkers as their main strategy since they survive creature-directed board wipes. Sower of Discord and Hydra Omnivore make it even easier to spread the damage around the table. The Demon has an ability similar to Saskia but even better because the damage being duplicated doesn't depend on your own creatures nor combat damage. The Hydra is another way to spread the damage around, but it's the only source doing so. It's also an 8/8 for just 6 mana, which is an excellent beater in the deck when given evasion. Earlier I mentioned forcing attacks but protecting ourselves from said attacks. Sometimes a good offense is a good defense. If we're forcing the table to attack, we gotta prevent ourselves from getting attacked. Norn's Annex, Ghostly Prison, Coxswain's Falls, Sphere of Safety, Archangel of Tides, Archon of Absolution, Baird Steward of Argive, and Windborn Muse all tax opponents who want to attack us. What's great about Norn's Annex is that if an opponent doesn't have white, they'd have to pay life to attack us. I guess it's a good thing that white is the least common color in Commander. Coxswain's Falls does have a downside though. You have to tap down a creature during your upkeep. But it's to be expected since it's a card from Homelands. However, Homelands does have a soft spot in my heart and is still a good card, especially since it's an off-color defensive enchantment. The latter 4 cards are creatures, so we can also use them defensively to block, even more so if they were to obtain First Strike and Death Touch. You can also swing in with Total Abandon thanks to cards like Seedborn Muse. You're now able to untap all attackers each upkeep in order to keep them in defensive position. This also untaps all your permanents, including lands and mana rocks, so that you have the mana available to cast any responses. Responses like Teferi's Protection, Boros Charm, and Heroic Intervention to protect your board state. Nothing can feel worse than overextending or overinvesting in your board state only to have a mere Wrath of God take it all away. This is why it's crucial to run responses such as these in your decks. Gerard Weatherlight Hero is another way to protect against board wipes. In fact, it might deter opponents from casting them since you could just exile Gerard and recover your destroyed things to the battlefield again. We can also protect against spot removal with Shalai, Voice of Plenty. Heroic Intervention gives hexproof as well, but it's only until the end of the turn in which it's cast. But Shalai gives hexproof not only to your other creatures, but to planeswalkers you control as well as to you. The deck doesn't run any planeswalkers, but at least we get hexproof. Shalai can also be used as a mana sink to give +1/+1 counters to all of our creatures, just like Gavany Township. Another way to protect our creatures is to make sure they even hit the battlefield. Destiny Spinner makes our creature spells and enchantment spells uncounterable. Not only is this a strictly better Gaia's Herald, but you can also use it to animate lands to get even more attackers and blockers, all on a 2-mana 2/3 creature. As for offensive responses, the deck is running Assassin's Trophy, Anguished Unmaking, and Hour of Revelation. We're incessantly forcing attacks and causing blocks, so creatures are taken care of during combat in this deck. However, we still have to deal with other types of nuisances. Assassin's Trophy and Anguish Unmaking are both instant speed removal spells that can take care of pretty much anything. Hour of Revelation is keeping our finger on the button just in case. In multiplayer Commander games, this spell almost always costs just triple white to cast, so that means we can probably respond to it by casting Boros Charm or Heroic Intervention to make our own things indestructible, or casting it with Gerard out. That would make us the only player with their board state still intact while the rest of the table is in shambles. And in order to have these responses in hand, we can't afford to run out of steam. This is why the deck runs ways of digging through the library to keep a full hand whenever possible. Tymna the Weaver prices us for attacking multiple opponents. When we do, we can pay 1 life for each one in order to draw a card, so we can essentially pay 3 life to draw 3 cards during our combat phase. The deck does have plenty of ways to gain life to mitigate this, and either way, Tymna also has lifelink. Necropotence is another way to 1/1 draw cards for life. We skip our draw step, but we can pseudo-draw into a ton of cards at the end of our turn. Sylvan Library is another similar way to draw cards for like, albeit a more taxing way. Even if you don't pay the 8 life for the extra 2 cards or even 4 life for an extra card, you can essentially at least rearrange the top 3 cards and draw 1. Since the deck has a lot of strong creatures, we can translate that into card draw thanks to Return of the Wild Speaker, Rishkar's Expertise, and Soul's Majesty. Although these are one-time use only effects, it's still a great way to dig through the deck since we aren't running any blue. As a bonus, Rishkar's Expertise also lets us cheat a spell of 5 or less. As for more permanent ways of using our creatures for cards, Greater Good can be used to sacrifice creatures to dig through our deck. If we're really in need of digging through our deck for answers or even just to refill our hand, sometimes that fatty is better suited for getting us more cards than getting in non-lethal damage. Beast Whisperer, Guardian Project, and the Great Henge are additional permanents to draw us cards. These draw us a card whenever we either cast a creature spell or have a non-token creature enter the battlefield. The Great Henge can also put a +1/+1 counter on that creature entering the battlefield. It also gains us life when tapped for mana, which is also good for the deck. And it's 2 green mana as well, so it's quite the mana rock. Speaking of which, we also need mana sources to cast all these beefy spells. The Great Henge is but one of many mana rocks in the deck, the rest being Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, Soul Ring, Mana Crypt, Mox Amber, and Mana Vault. The deck might be 4-colored, but plenty of the bigger spells have quite the generic cost, so Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, and Soul Ring can take care of that. As for the colors, we have Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, and Mox Amber, which more than likely will always provide any color given as the deck has plenty of legendary permanents in it. Faber Elder, Bloom Tender, and Birds of Paradise also provide mana of any color. The Tree and Elf have the potential of tapping for 4 mana each, which can definitely go a long way. Sure, being a creature means that they're more susceptible to removal, but keep in mind that the deck has plenty of ways to give our creatures hexproof and indestructible. As for less fragile mana acceleration, the deck is running Farseek, Nature's Lore, 3 Visits, Cultivate, and Kodama's Reach. The deck's only running 4 basic lands total, but being able to get 2 of them with either Cultivate or Kodama's Reach is still good. The previous 3 are the trifecta of ramp, since for 2 mana we can get a dual-typed land onto the battlefield. Now that I mentioned the lands, that's the rest of the deck. The deck's running all 11 fetch lands, all 6 dual lands, all 6 shock lands, Daragaz's Caldera, Rith's Grove, Command Tower, City of Brass, Mana Confluence, and Reflecting Pool, as well as 1 of each basic snow land just in case anyone is running anything that benefits us for it. This brew is just an idea of how to build around Saskia the Unyielding. As of the recording of this video, Saskia is the only commander with this color identity unless you combine partners for it. That being said, most of the best attack effects and combat hijinxes are in Saskia's colors, so it definitely makes it difficult to cut it down when brewing this deck. However, that's also a plus since you can customize Saskia however you'd like, and it would still be a functional build because there's just so many good cards for it. If you're interested in the deck list of this spicy brew of mine, you can find a link to it down in the description. I would like to thank all my patrons for supporting me, and a quick shout out to all my higher tier patrons, the brewers, for their patronage. I'd also like to thank anyone using my TCG Player affiliate link, that also helps out the channel. I also want to thank those who participated in the poll. This episode was a product of your input, so I'm glad it came to be. And to everyone, thanks for watching this episode of The Brewery on the Commander Tavern. I am Demented Kirby, and happy brewing.